You let me know when you think it's good to go, because you're better at this stuff than I am.
I bet I've done one panel, so I've got my costume changed and everything.
I've done none, so you're you're better than me anyway.
All right.
Cool.
Looks like our numbers are starting to settle down just a little bit. So I think we're good to go ahead and get started. I'm sure a couple people will trickle in, but I think they know what they're here for.
I think they do.
All right, so let's get going. Hi, everyone. If you weren't on the production panel, or not production, sorry, crew. I'm Katie. You know me from various social medias as Katie Knox. This is Emily, also known as Lavender Ghost Co. No introduction needed. And we are incredibly excited to welcome all of you to the first annual ClusterCon. Well, hopefully annual. I like to think it's going to be annual. A virtual event created by fans for fans to celebrate our love for Lockwood and Co. We hope you all have your tea and biscuits ready and you're all comfortable and ready to get going. So real quick, just a rundown of our agenda. It'll be the same as the previous panel. So the first section is a interviewer-led discussion with Lav and I, with questions we've curated ourselves with the team and from all of you guys in Lock Nation. The second section will be the part of the panel where we bring in audience members so they can ask their questions to Jonathan. They've been pre-selected. So yeah. So before we get, and at the end, can't forget, at the end, we're doing the drawing for our signed books that have so graciously been donated by Jonathan. So yeah, before we get going, we also have to thank the amazing ClusterCon team who have put so much soul, time, effort, hard work into creating this event. There are so many people putting in hours of work behind the scenes. The two people you see on screen today are just like the tip of the iceberg. There are so many people working to put this together, and I am so in awe of all of them and all the work that they've done, and the love that they have for this book and show series. So yeah, I think that's it for my bit. Take it away, Lav.
Take it away. So before we get started, we want to give a very, very quick shout out to our friend Eve, who you might know from Discord and Twitter, who this morning gave birth to our very first Lock Nation baby. And it's incredibly exciting. So I don't know if Eve is watching this. She probably isn't able to, but she can see it later. And we're sending you all the love, and we're very excited for you and very happy for you. So I think I'll go ahead and introduce our guest, who genuinely needs no introduction because he's the reason that literally all of us are here. He's the reason we're all sitting here. None of us would have met without him, which is crazy for me to think about. So by opening the doors of 35 Portland Row, Jonathan has given us a home. By introducing us to Lockwood, Lucy and George, he's given us friends. And now in Lock Nation, we've all found friends and family of our own that I think we have bonds that I think we will have for a lifetime and forever. And it's very precious and very, very special to me. And I know it's very special for everyone else as well. And I'm going to try and be professional and not cry. So without further ado, everybody, please put your rapiers together and welcome the best-selling author of Bartimaeus, Scarlet and Brown, and of course, Lockwood and Co., Mr. Jonathan Stroud. Hey.
Here I am.
There he is.
Thanks very much.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi there, guys. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. It's a joy to be with you here in Portland Row.
Yeah, look at us. We need to get our tea and our Choco Liebknees now.
I've got my tea. You're pleased to note. There we go.
There we go.
It comes in and out of focus a little bit, like a ghostly mug.
Like a type 2. Hey, maybe the mug from the interview really was haunted. Maybe that's the one.
It could be. Who knows? You can tell. But I'm really enjoying the day. I think you guys are doing an amazing job, and I thoroughly enjoyed the first panel that we had an hour ago. And I learned huge amounts about the show and the creation of the show that I didn't know. So thank you, guys. You've given me something special even in the last hour.
Oh, well, I think Katie and Zoe did an incredible job. They were amazing.
Absolutely.
So, well done, you guys.
We had a grand old time. It was great. Thank you for tuning in. It was very fun.
Yeah, it was amazing. Do we want to get started?
Let's go. I think you've got the first question, Lev.
I do indeed. So the first section, like Katie said, is questions from both me, Katie, and then some people from Twitter as well. So our very first question comes from CMI on Twitter, otherwise known as Charlotte. And Charlotte wants to know, what inspirations initially led you to create the world of Lockwood and Co?
So I think going back into the mist of time, I always enjoyed ghost stories. It will not surprise you to know. I very much enjoy things like M.R. James ghost stories, sort of classic British vibe tales of horror and terror. So that was always there. I also like detective stories, actually, and I suppose Sherlock Holmes is a sort of a twin grandparent of Lockwood and Co, because you've got the consulting detective in a house in London with strange characters turning up on the door, giving different jobs for the heroes to do. So detective stories, ghost stories were there from my early childhood, and yeah, they brewed away inside for years and years until the day where I sat down and just wrote this little scene with a boy and a girl wearing rapiers, walking down the road, knocking on the door to deal with a ghost. And I didn't know at that point what the story was or where it was going to go, but I just liked these two guys and the way they spoke to each other. So that was the ignition. But you have all this stuff that comes from years and years before that.
Oh, we like the two walking up to the door as well.
I love hearing about that.
It's a really strange thing how these things work, because I guess for years I've been sitting there thinking, it'd be great to do a story about ghosts and about the afterlife. And in fact, I wrote a short story which was published in an anthology about a guy who was able to go to the afterlife, and in fact he did it because he was employed by insurance companies to go and track down people who just died who hadn't paid their dues, and he had a rapier, and he went across. He would walk across to the other side and follow them through the afterlife and sort of tap them on the shoulder and get them to sign bits of paper. And then
oh my god!
Anyway, so it was. I
love this.
It was a fun story, but the thing there was that he had a rapier, you see, which he used to fight off various dangers that were there in the afterlife. So he was an adult, but he was there as this I guess another ancestor of Lockwood and Lucy.
Oh my god, that's so cool!
I'd kind of forgotten about it, but yeah, it was there back in the midst of time.
Oh wow, that could be
hysterical.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh my gosh. Awesome.
You're next, I think, Katie.
Yeah. So our next question for you is, we know there are a lot of scenes that didn't quite make it into the books, as is the way of any book. But are there any that you can tell us about that were cut from the final product of any of the books that you really liked, or things that almost got written?
Certainly. Particularly that's the case in the early books, particularly the first book, actually, because I guess it's not surprising. In the first book, I'm there trying to figure out how the world works, how the characters work. I don't know the characters as well at that point. So I think, well, maybe they do this, let's give it a go. And I would try something. So for example, I started writing a scene where Lockwood, Lucy and George have a fight in a back street with Kipps and his gang, and they actually sort of like draw swords, and it's a bit of a scrap going on. And I kind of half wrote it, and even then I think I realized that it wasn't quite right, that obviously they have this rivalry. In the first book they really hate each other, but even then I kind of thought it's too sort of obvious. I didn't want them to kind of actually have physical violence against each other. So that was out. I suppose the really key change in the early version of the Screaming Staircase, again, it involved Kipps, that Kipps and his gang were going to be at Coombe Carey Hall as well. The original idea, both teams were going to be brought to the house to deal with, to find the source, to deal with the problem, and of course, they were going to be, rivals rushing to try and sort it out. And again, I started writing it, but again, I quite quickly realized that this was far too complicated. Not only did you have to discover the secret of Coombe Carey Hall, but you also had to deal with the rivalry between all these characters. And in the first book, I really had to focus in on Lucy, Lockwood, and George.
Yeah.
So that whole sort of rivals coming together in a kind of challenge, that was all moved, as you know, into the second book. So it reappeared, you know, down the line a few months later. And it was easier then, because by that point I knew how Lockwood, Lucy and George worked. I kind of knew more about the way the world worked, and I could actually have a proper plot structure that brought Kipps and his gang into play in a more controlled sort of way.
That's amazing. That's so cool that you had like the idea in the first book and you knew it didn't work, but it found a place somewhere else. That's amazing.
Well, it's because you can kind of tell that it's quite a good idea. Like it's going to be a good idea to have Kipps and his guys running around a haunted house with Lockwood, and, you know, opening doors and nearly stabbing each other. But I could do that in the Bickerstaff house in the second book. And there it actually served more of a purpose. It became too complicated and too confusing in the first book. I mean, there are other sort of examples, like later on when I was writing The Hollow Boy, I wrote the ghost, the shining boy, where there's a little tiny sort of kid who causes a lot of trouble for the guys. I knew it was a really good scene. It was a really sort of exciting scene, but it kind of didn't connect with the wider story of that book. So kind of quite late on, sort of in my final draft, I just cut the scene out completely and put it to one side, and then I used it in book 4, which was when the guys go to Alder Castle, the village, to deal with the cluster there. There I could use the Shining Boy as a kind of cool adventure for them to have. So never throw anything away is my advice. You know, you always just store it away and use it later. That's
amazing.
Very solid advice. Very solid advice. I feel like the characters too, as you're writing, sort of end up going different directions, and it's not the way you originally wanted it to go, but that's the way it's going.
Yeah, no, that's right. The characters do lead you. I mean, I know some writers seem to be able to kind of plan everything in advance and then just follow it. But I think the way I work is to have a kind of vague idea and then pursue it and see what happens. And chance and inspiration kind of comes in down the line, a bit like the guys were saying in the other podcast, in the other interview an hour ago. They would set up a scene and they would suddenly realize there's a really cool lighting effect to do with some flares in, you know, Hyde Park, and they can go, oh well, we're going to use that because it's really great. So you have to be alive to the fact that unexpected things will come into play and be useful.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Cool. Will we do our next question?
Yep.
The next question is, can you tell us about the development of George, Holly and Kipps? How much do you flesh out their backgrounds off the page?
It's a similar answer, actually, in a way that I don't tend to sit there going, right, I'm going to bring in this guy called Kipps, and this is where he was born, and he's this age, and this is his background, and he's had these things happen to him. It's more like in real life, where you meet somebody and you get an initial impression, and then you get to know them and you find out more about them, and eventually, if you get to know them really well, there isn't much more to discover. But so with Kipps, that was a classic example, and for me, one of the most satisfying things of the whole series, actually, that in the first book he kind of turns up and you think he's going to be just a kind of an antagonist, a sort of anti Lockwood. But even in that first book, I was there kind of thinking, no, that's a bit limited. I was interested in making it more. So in the second book, you see the kind of rivalry and the fact that they kind of have to muck along together somehow. And really, with him, it was the third book where I suddenly kind of realised that he could become a friend, and it was going to be kind of a painful journey for him, but actually a very moving one. And I was really happy when I had that revelation. I think it came in. There's a scene where I think it might be George and Lucy are kind of walking down the street, and they meet Kipps, and his Ned Shaw's has died, has been killed. And so you suddenly you have this moment where you see him being vulnerable, and and that was the point where you could kind of know that something new is going to happen. But I didn't realize that when I was writing the first book a couple of years earlier. The same with Holly. The story with Holly is that when I originally introduced her to the house, I was a bit suspicious of her in the same way as Lucy is. And I did kind of, in my notes, you can see me thinking, wow, maybe she does come from Rockwell's. Maybe she has been put in there as a bit of a spy. And is she a bit of a villain? Is there some way in which we discover that she, down the line that she, but actually I kind of realized as I got to know her that Holly was great and actually a really positive and important and a key person in the gang. Despite what Lucy might be thinking, because Lucy's a bit anxious for reasons of her own. So again, Holly becomes a very sort of integral part of the gang. But I didn't quite know that when I first introduced her.
Oh, that's lovely. That's so nice. And I love that they become like such a part of the gang that like it goes from being a trio to being like a quintet. I absolutely love that. I just think that's so like there's something very moving about it. I think that like Lucy starts off with no one and then she finds Lockwood and George and then she finds Holly and Kipps as well. It's just lovely. It's so meaningful.
Skull.
And Skull.
And the skull, of course.
Sorry.
No, it's true. No, you're quite right. I mean, for me, that was also one of the really important things about the series. And by the end, it was almost it is the most important aspect of the whole story. Really, the fact that Lucy finds Lockwood, and the two of them also find George, and it snowballs out, and you have this very, very important gang. Again, these things develop slowly. So with George, the same thing happens, but you see it really only in the flashback. So that you have that flashback scene in the book where you can tell when Lucy first turns up that George is a bit sarcastic and a little bit hostile, and she's a bit grumpy with him. So there's obviously a period where they find each other a bit annoying, but quite quickly George's inherent decency and Lucy's inherent decency come to the surface, and of course they realize they're both absolutely irreplaceable.
Oh, they're like brother and sister. They've got a sibling dynamic.
Yeah, no, it really is. And you, as a writer, you write your way into the scenes, and you see them talking. And for me, the kitchen table scenes were always really important, because they were moments where you can obviously you can advance the plot by talking about what we're going to do about Bickerstaff or whatever it is. But actually the really important thing in the books and in the TV show is that you can be in that kitchen and they can just bounce off each other, and I can discover more about how each of them tick.
Oh, it's lovely.
No, I love that. All right, so for our next question, as we kind of hinted at, and as I know we've said before, Lockwood and Lucy are both somewhat hopelessly oblivious at times to the other and feelings and emotions and anything that involves emotions. So as you're writing this, when did when did they start to understand that their relationship went beyond that of friends and colleagues?
Well, I think they kind of know it right from the beginning, actually. I think I knew it right from the point where I wrote the first scene, the two of them walking down the street together, having a little bit of banter, bouncing off each other, teasing each other a little bit. I think they know. They know. You can kind of tell they know, because as Lucy's writing, she will describe Lockwood in a way that makes it pretty obvious what she thinks about him. But actually,
she's not subtle.
But neither of them can afford to admit it, and that's the thing. They know it at a deep level, but they can't really admit it and look it full in the face, because life is too dangerous. I mean, obviously Lockwood's case, he's got this terrible emotional constipation that he's had terrible things happen to him and his family, and he's protecting himself, and he buttons everything up, and he doesn't want to he doesn't want to let the world in. But Lucy also, she has to get through each night alive, and she's got this dangerous job to do, and she's trying to do it with her work colleague Lockwood. She has to
colleague.
her colleague. So on one level, she has to sort of focus. She has to keep focused on that stuff, and all the other things that are bubbling away. The instinct is to keep it under wraps. So I think it's there from right from the beginning, and you can see that in the show. You can see it in the show. The actors understood that as well. The guys who made the show knew it absolutely 100% as well. That the moment she walks into into Portland Row and they look at each other, there's something there. But they're not going to say it straight away. That's for sure.
No,
that would be way too easy for them.
That would be a very short series.
Oh my gosh. What was it like getting to watch those characters come to life on screen after you'd already written them?
Oh, it was a really profound and beautiful moment. Gina and I went into London to have a special screening of 3 of the episodes that Joe and Rachel and Naira had put on for us to see, and they were the first episode was episode 1, and it just blew me away. It was a very strange and powerful thing, because I right from the word go, I think Cameron, Ruby, Ali, they inhabited the characters perfectly, and they are my characters. So it was like me watching my characters walking around doing their thing in Portland Row. It was utterly perfect. Very, very special, profound experience.
Oh, that's lovely.
I think that's got to be pretty much like every author's like absolute dream, is just getting to see those characters come to life in front of you, having so many people like discover them on the page, and then getting to see them on the screen as well. I've got to imagine that's like one of the greatest feelings ever.
I think it's, I'm aware of how very lucky I am, because I don't think it's something that happens every time by any means.
No.
I kind of knew that it was going to be. I kind of knew that it was exciting, even when I saw Ruby, Cameron, Ali do their little sort of test screening together. The guys, it was the middle of lockdown, and the guys sent me this, I don't know, like a minute's worth of footage of the 3 of them just standing together, doing a little scene, and just the way they interacted, holding their scripts, just sort of talking. They were the characters. It was just absolutely instant. So yeah, I've been very sort of wonderfully served by those guys. I owe them a lot.
Oh, they did an amazing job. Like, even like, because I reread the books after the show came out, because I wanted to picture them in my head, and it was just like, it's uncanny. Like, it just like they just are them. It's amazing. I just love. Oh, it's perfect.
It's true, and it's very well. It's a testament to the guys that you saw in the last interview, and Rachel and Brad and Joy, who we'll see in the next one. The whole team, the amount of effort they went to make it seem like a seamless transition. The books and the show, they have differences, of course, but they sort of are the same thing. They're very organically connected. And that I think is very rare.
Yeah, they're like side by side in my head. They're like one and the same. Like, I know there's like little differences between them, but to me they're like the same, if that makes sense.
I mean, that's right. Yeah, they don't. One doesn't sort of lord it over the other. I think they both have the same. There's an equivalence. And they both bounce off each other as well, so that the things that the TV show does, which you don't get in the books, and vice versa, and it's all mutually enriching. Well, it is from from my perspective. I couldn't be more happy.
I think we're the same. I think everyone agrees that they just go together hand in hand, and they're just amazing together. So
yes, absolutely. All right,
cool.
Move on. So jumping back into the books, this question comes from Platypus on Twitter. So you clearly did a lot of research on ghosts and spiritual practices from around the world for Lockwood and Co. Was there a particular cultural view on death or ghosts that surprised you or made you think about visitors differently?
I suppose as I was writing the series, I was constantly looking for new ideas and new perspectives, new ways of doing it, because I suppose there's only so many ways that you can have characters walking into a dark room and something jumping out at them. You know, you have to think of ways of jazzing it up and making it different. And I suppose the most profound thing was and it links in ultimately to the whole climax and the story of Lockwood's parents, that the traditions, the kind of I was going to say Eastern traditions, but I don't think it is. I think it's just the sort of the more shamanistic traditions that you get in certain cultures, where the shaman or shaman are able to maybe pass across, to actually converse or to encounter or interact with the ancestors or with spirits of the dead. And they can do it in certain, if they do it in certain ways, certain rituals, wearing certain things in certain places. And that's and it's obviously dangerous, but it's also something that is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be good, and that's very different from the very antagonistic sort of scary skeleton jumping out of a graveyard kind of tradition that you get in certainly in sort of the British ghost sort of culture. So I really liked the fact that they had this sort of slightly different approach to ghosts, which I was able to sort of bring in as part of the plot as the series went on. And in the end, in the last sort of book or two, you really start to feel that influence becoming quite important.
Yeah, it's a really good point as well, because like, book spoilers for anyone who hasn't read them, but
I hope you've read them.
I hope you've read them. It's something that I've always loved, is that like Lockwood's parents, when they went to talk about like the other side and going to the other side, it was a very good thing that they were doing. And then you have Penelope, Marissa going to the other side for the complete opposite. Like they were going for a very malicious reason versus the good reason that Lockwood's parents was doing it for. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lovely juxtaposition there between the two of them, like the good and the evil. I've always loved that.
No, you're quite right. And again, it's something that I wouldn't have predicted when I first started writing. And in that moment, it was just them going into a house and they're going to have to keep the wicked spirit at bay with swords. It became something much more complicated as I was writing it. But I think even right at the beginning, one of my influences that you asked me about at the beginning, one of the my intentions was always to redress the balance a bit. That a lot of ghost stories, a lot of ghost movies, the ghost stories are great, but they're also a bit of a downer. You quite often you get you watch this thing and you get this horrible evil things jumping out and everyone gets killed apart from maybe somebody at the end who gets away, and it's all a bit sort of depressing. And actually what I wanted was to give my heroes the equipment, the physical equipment, but also the sort of mental equipment to be able to meet the bad things head on. So there's a constant life and death, good and evil, dark and light. Just it's a constant battle and seesaw thing going on through the whole series.
Yeah, there's like the really interesting contrast too between like Marissa and Tom, who started the problem, and then Lockwood and Lucy, the pair who started to like end the problem a little bit. It's almost like it comes full circle.
No, you're right. And as it went on, I began to see these kind of these equivalencies between the different characters and different generations. And it's a strange thing, because it wasn't something that was invented at the beginning. It kind of gradually the picture took shape as I was writing it.
That's amazing. That's so cool. We go on to our next one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Our next one is from World of Chaos, I think it's pronounced, on Twitter. And they say, Lucy doesn't seem to realize the extent of her talent but the skull and the other ghosts are drawn to her. How is her talent so strong, and do you think she could have more powers that could still be explored?
Oh yeah, I definitely think she does. Yeah, I don't think it's any different from any one of us, that you as you go through life, you come to you have an idea, form an idea of who you are and what your talents are and what you can do, what you can't do. And actually, there are moments where you meet people, or you meet communities where suddenly you realize, actually, no, I can do all this other stuff that I didn't realize. And it's just the same with Lucy, that she has a certain idea of her talent, and it takes coming to Portland Row for her to have one door opened. Then she meets the skull, and that opens another door, and she realizes that she has a talent on a different level than she expected. And I think at the end, you get the sense that Lucy and Lockwood are going to probably go on and do more stuff at a different level, because of course now they understand more about the problem, how it works, and they're going to have to go back to the other side. They're going to have to sort out some other stuff. It's going to be a different kind of sorting out. And I think Lucy will undoubtedly, have new talents and new capabilities that she's as yet, only half aware of.
Cool.
More research for George.
Sorry.
More research for George.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he's
very excited.
It's almost like infinite research for him. Yeah. He's set up for life for sure.
Yeah. Meeting Lucy is the best thing that ever happened to him.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, next up is from Alice Mirror on Twitter, who I think you've met, Alice.
Oh, yeah.
She's bad. Alice wants to know, does the talent of the agents work automatically, or does it have to be specially focused to turn it on? That is, does Lockwood see the death glow every time he goes into the hallway where Carver died, and in the kitchen after the events of the empty grave?
Yeah, I mean, I think potentially he could see it every time he walks into the room. I don't think he necessarily focuses on it every time. I think it's like you can be in a room with music playing, and if you want to, you can sit there and focus on that music and listen to it really carefully and just be in the music. Or if you're working on an essay, or you're getting distracted by your phone or something, you kind of almost forget the music's playing. So Lockwood will go into the hallway, and if he wants to, he can focus and he can see it. If he doesn't want, if he's interested in something else, he can kind of tune it out to a certain degree. The show did it perfectly. The way that they would show how Lockwood and Lucy kind of consciously would have to just focus. Mm-hmm. You zoom in, you see them just making that little adjustment. Because in a way they're athletes. They have this skill, they have this talent that they're using every day. They're really good at it. All they have to do is to just focus, and then they have access to it. If they're tired or distracted or grumpy, then they might miss things.
Oh, that's really sad for Lockwood.
Just extra trauma for Lockwood. Death goes every time you walk through the door of your house. Just
well, I think he doesn't have to focus on it. It's like we can. I can go in my garden and I can focus on all the slugs on the if I want to, or I can kind of look at the sky and look at the clouds.
Oh,
much more upbeat.
That's a great thing for Lockwood too, though, as he moves forward and stops having to focus so much on his past and starts seeing a future for himself too. He doesn't have to focus on the death glows in his house as much either.
No, that's right. I think you're quite right. I think he's focusing on Lucy now, isn't he? So he's got better things to think about.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, that's so nice.
There's lots of hearts coming up in the chat.
Yeah, people are very happy about that. As they should be, because they're in love and it's lovely.
Exactly.
Okay, our next question is I don't know how this one got in here, but it says, hi Jonathan. Hi Jonathan, my question is, do you prefer chips or crisps? Sincerely, your BFF Adam Bunchurch.
Adam, well, Always good to hear from Adam Bunchurch. So my answer, I mean, actually, it's a decent question, because of course food is really important for Lockwood, Lucy and George, and crisps and chips both feature heavily, I'm sure, in their diet. Personally speaking, I eat more crisps on a more day-to-day level, but I think chips, if you eat them in the right place, like on a looking out over the sea, when you've got fresh fish, fish and chips, bit of vinegar, salt, ketchup, that's probably the ultimate experience. It beats crisps that way.
That's fair. Maybe we'll get a short story of the trio at the beach or something someday.
Well, I mean, there's some great ghost stories set on beaches. The M.R. James story, A Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad. That's particularly creepy beach action. So yeah, actually that's a great idea. I should do a proper seaside Lockwood seaside holiday, and have something terrifying coming down the beach.
That would be amazing.
I mean,
I'll make a note of that one.
Please do.
Credit to Lav.
Yeah, that's why I have to dedicate that one to you for sure.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I would be overjoyed beyond words. Any more of the trio, I'd be grand.
You can imagine that Lockwood would be kind of slightly awkward on the beach, and he'd have to roll up his trousers, his suit trousers. Yeah. You can kind of be. It's a good idea, actually. I have to have a little think about. Yeah. Lockwood's holidays.
Oh, they deserve one. Yeah. They deserve one. They deserve a holiday. They've been through too much.
Yeah, well, they have. Yeah, no, this is good. I have to get scribbling.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's give the poor children a break. They need it. It's about time. All right. So our next question is about your other works. So we're all very excited for the release of the third Scarlet and Brown book. Do you have any other favorite or upcoming projects that you want to share with people?
So my current project is the third Scarlet and Brown, which I'm busy scribbling away on, and I'm hoping I'll finish that in the next few months, and it'll come out in a year or so, I guess, by the time we've kind of edited it and fiddled around with it and things. So that's very exciting. After that, well, I mean, I've got all sorts of lovely files kicking around my desk, including the Black Casebook file, which is the idea of having some Lockwood short stories, of which Lockwood Summer Holiday might have to be in there. Who could tell?
Might have to be.
Yeah, it's one of these things that you get idea, a bit like this. You get an idea and you think, well, that's really good, but then you have to kind of make a note of it and scribble down a few ideas, and then you put it in the file and forget about it while you're doing something else. So I'll have to add a little sheet to the file, which is there. It is. I don't know if you can see it. I've got it. There. Oh look! Oh look! It's like a ghost. There you go. Black Casebook. There we are. Yeah. So I'll have to add that in there. It would be very nice to write some more Lockwood things. Again, it kind of comes back to the influence of Sherlock Holmes. That one of the things I enjoyed as a kid was reading the tales. How you have lots of lovely short stories, each of which conjures something brief and exciting and beautiful. But then you move on to a different story. So it's an interesting. It's interesting, but also it would be a challenge as well, because it would be a different thing from writing a big fat novel where you have time to follow all the different strands. Anyway, it's an interesting challenge.
Well, I think Lock Nation would be happy with anything, really, wouldn't we?
Well, I'm getting very inspired by all the lovely creativity that you guys are showing in every respect. That you're taking the world that I created, and which Complete Fiction created, and you're running with it in all sorts of new directions, and that's very inspiring, and it helps to sort of feed the creativity feeds back. So I'm really excited by the possibilities.
That's amazing. That's great. The chat is going absolutely mental, by the way. I thought you'd like to know.
I heard the Black Casebook and I'm like, oh, here they come.
Yeah. We summoned the masses.
Oh, good stuff.
We're very easily summoned. It doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much.
All of Lock Nation. So one last question before we go into our audience questions is, so as we know, Lock Nation is an international fan base. The books have been translated into so many different languages. So when books are getting translated into different languages, do you have any input on changes that like might occur, like the little slight differences in wording? For example, the cookie rule in the American edition. Who do I have to come for that? I know what a biscuit is.
Yeah, I know the cookie rule. That was a bit of an error, I think. It's a strange one. I think the cookie rule only. I mean, that's obviously the first book, isn't it? I think probably from the second book onwards, a lot of these Americanisms were quietly binned, and we kept the because I can remember having the conversation with the editor for the first book, saying, oh yeah, we need to change a few things, and biscuit to cookie, and I wasn't massively pleased by it, but also at the same time you have to go, you do have to go with what your publishers say, because they know what's right for their territory. It's like with covers, different covers in different countries. You generally you go with what their opinion is. But I also remember having the conversation with the same editor the following year, where we kind of agreed that actually we didn't need to make those changes, and so things like cookies could be safely cast aside, and biscuits. I can't remember trousers, pants and trousers, and gardens and yards. There's a few sort of little key words where I think they rode back on it, which I'm pleased about. But there are times where you do have to make allowance for different sort of cultural sensibilities, or the way that a certain word will have a certain connotation. So it's all part of the fun.
I'll take the Fahrenheit and Celsius changes. I can't convert stuff to save my life. I'm a reader. I don't do math. I don't touch that stuff.
No, and I think it's true. It works both ways. When American fiction comes over here, or it's fine. It's fine to cope. In most cases, everyone can cope with it, and that actually makes part of the fun. It makes it feel real and alive. So, yeah, hopefully we won't get any more dodgy cookies kicking around.
No more cookies. No more cookies.
No more cookies.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to the much awaited audience portion of the discussion. So just as a reminder, for all of our audience members who are coming on, just make sure that when it's your turn, your camera and microphone are on and you're ready to go. So we're going to start first with Maya.
Okay.
So here she is.
Hi, Maya.
Hi, Maya.
Hi. It's very nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
So my question is, I am an archaeologist, and that means that I work with human skeletons every day, and that I spend a lot of my working hours in cemeteries digging up graves. So totally selfless question here. Do you think that archaeologists still exist in the Lockwood and Co universe? And if so, what would my job look like?
Such a good question.
Yeah, I know. I think you would definitely have a very important role, but it would probably be it would kind of be a fusion of archaeologist and agent. So you would have to have agency training. I think you'd need to be a bit psychic probably to get the job in the first place. So you'd start off. You'd get you'd be an agent who could obviously see dangers coming. So you can dig away to your heart's content, but you'd also be then able to whip out a silver net, or bring out a magnesium flare, or whatever kind of security you needed to make the area safe. So yeah, I think in a way you'd be like a fusion of George and Lockwood. You'd have that research side. You'd be interested in the in where the skeleton came from, but you'd also be able to deal with a ghost if it jumped out at you. do you feel like you could do that role?
Yes, and I also think that I know what to bring to work on Monday. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
I don't know. I don't know if flares need to be on that list. You might
flares.
want to
No. And iron chains. I mean, you can't go wrong with iron chains.
Thank you.
Thanks,
it's a great
Maya.
job as well. Thanks.
That'd be a good job for George. I think George would like that. He'd get to research and still do.
I think George probably would be an archaeologist in real life if he was in our world. He'd probably do something like that.
I think he'd enjoy that.
Definitely.
I think he'd have fun with that. Cool.
All right. So our next question is from Nancy Drev on Twitter.
Okay.
All right. Hi, I'm Joe.
Hi, Nancy. Oh, hi.
Oh, nope, Joe.
Hi.
So no,
Joe,
it was
sorry. Hi, Joe.
for the Twitter, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. So my question was there anything that the actors brought to any of the characters that you really enjoyed that maybe you hadn't pictured when you were writing?
Oh, wow. Well, like I said earlier, as soon as I saw them on screen in episode 1, I saw them coming to the door of the house, going in and fighting the first ghost. I mean, right from that beginning, I saw all sorts of beautiful little things that I hadn't ever imagined, and they just inhabited my characters perfectly from the outset. I think for me, the things that gave me the most joy were the tiny things, like the little looks between them, the way that they, for example, in that first episode, there's the moment where Lucy is at the interview and she's gobbling the biscuits, and Lockwood just looks over at George and George looks at him, and there's this little tiny bit where the two of them look at each other. And in that, you can kind of feel in microcosm the love and the friendship that the three of them are gonna share. And for me, that was very moving, because it's just at this point where she doesn't even know them yet. You know, she pretty much doesn't know their names. You know, it's so early, but you kind of just see it. And another silly one is the bit where she comes down later and Lockwood's in the library, and she sits down on an apple core and brings out, and they just have this little moment where they look at each other, and that's it. Just look at the apple, and there's a kind of humor in that. And again, there's this, you can kind of just feel the connection. And so it's things like that which I would not have been. You couldn't really write that into the scene. It's too subtle. It's too quick. There's too much going on. So that's they're such great actors, and they were able to bring my characters to life, right from the start. And other little things like the way that Lockwood, when Lockwood's showing Lucy around the house, and the way he moves, so Cameron moves beautifully. It's kind of, he almost dances through the house, and it's like a strut, but it's also a kind of ballet. It's very light. It's full of confidence, but it's very beautiful. And something like that, you can't write that. It has to be done in the performance. And so the whole show is filled with actors who are all bringing that kind of beautiful precision to the roles.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
No, thanks very much. It's a great question.
Thanks.
Bye, Joe. Okay, our next guest is Kalea Wrights from Instagram and Twitter. Kalea? There we go.
Hi,
Hello.
Kalea. How are you doing?
Hi, good. Oh my goodness. I am freaking out. The fact that you are here, great sir.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. So my question is, were there any real life ghost stories or myths that you discovered while researching that almost made it to the series of books, but ultimately didn't? If so, why?
Wow. I think I used most things that I liked. I did a lot of, there were obviously things that I had right from the outset, like I thought I have to use a poltergeist somewhere. That's going to be good. Then there were slightly more unusual ones, like the idea of doppelgangers, of meeting yourself, which is a great one. And there I kind of thought, well, I'll definitely use that, but I used it in the idea of the fetch, where Lucy sees a fake Lockwood. So I kind of took the idea of a ghostly version of Lockwood and turned it into something slightly different from the traditional doppelgangers. I think by the end I felt like I'd kind of used, I stole as many things as I could and mixed them all up. And it's really only now, a few years down the line, that I'm here with my black casebook and I'm starting to kind of get a few more ideas, and I'm putting them in there and storing them away for a rainy day. I don't think I can think of anything. Yeah, there wasn't anything obvious I can think of that was that I left out, because if it was good, I nicked it and used it.
Do you have any favorite? Do you have any favorite ghost cases that they went on from the books?
Which are my favorites in the books?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I like the red room. I very much enjoyed doing that. I very much enjoyed the bloody footprints and the Ealing cannibal. I mean, and the whole poltergeist fetch bit, I think went really well.
And traumatized us all.
Yeah.
What about you, Kalia? Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite ghost that you liked? Oh, she's gone.
Oh, we love Kalia.
Oh no, disappeared. Oh, she's come back.
No, she's back.
Like a ghost herself.
I was so sorry. Wow. Even my camera glitched because of how excited I am to see you. I don't have a particular favorite, but I think we can all agree that we love La Dame the most. Like, she's just so, like, I mean, I love how cheeky she is, like, in a way, because I think most of them are just like ghouly in a sense, but she's got her own personality, and I really like that about her.
Oh, good. Yeah. She's
so cool.
That's great. I tried to make I tried to make them all a bit different. That was the challenge, really, actually, to just to find something slightly different with each haunting. But yeah, that was part of the joy of the whole series.
I think that's why you're a gift to the universe, sir.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Lovely to meet you.
Bye, Kalea.
Bye.
Oh, that was cute.
All right.
Okay.
So I think I'm up next. So our next question is from Ana Luisa on Twitter.
Okay.
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm from Brazil. I would just like to say that I love you. I love the characters you created in this beautiful world. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. That's lovely to hear.
My question is, do you have any thoughts on how Lockwood's internal narrative would differ from Lucy's? Because I would love to understand how his mind works.
Oh yeah. Well, I tried getting into that when I was writing. When I wrote the first book from Lucy's perspective, of course, and then I started writing the second book, and I tried writing it from Lockwood's point of view. I actually started writing chapter 1, and it was Lockwood telling the story, and it kind of didn't work for me because I think by his nature, he's slightly more closed off, because he's quite, I suppose, quite emotionally damaged in some respects. He's kind of had to sort of erect these internal walls around himself. And if you go inside his head, you either have to have things that he doesn't talk about because he doesn't talk about it even to himself, or you have to have him talking about his sister and his parents, and you'd have to get that pain in quite a raw way, which wouldn't be very nice to read about, and wouldn't actually make him such an interesting character. So I quite quickly realized that it was difficult for me to write that kind of character. He's better seen at a slight distance. So you're like Lucy, where they're thinking, well, what's he thinking about? What's he doing? Why does he do that? Why doesn't he say that he loves me? You know, all that kind of stuff. You can have that conversation with him slightly separate. So I did think that along the same lines as you, but I drew back from it.
Cool.
Thank you so much. That's really interesting.
Thanks very much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Bye, Anna.
Bye.
Like Lockwood looking at Lucy sometimes it's just got to be like just the loading screen just in his head.
Is that something would you ever tweet out your Lockwood draft? Is that something you'd want us to ever see, or is that locked in a vault somewhere, never to be?
I did have a look for it. I did look to see what it was. I actually, again, I use everything, so I reuse it. So there were bits that he was talking. The bit I found was I don't know where I've got it here. I got these. I had these notebooks where I wrote a lot of the notes for the books, and somewhere in here there was so there was a scene where my name is Anthony James Lockwood. He was called James there, middle name. My name is Anthony James Lockwood. I make my living by destroying the risen spirits of the dead. I can throw a salt bomb 50 yards from a standing start and hold off 4 spectres at a time using the Kuriyashi rapier technique. I'm good with crowbars, magnesium flares, and candles. I don't mind dark rooms. I can improvise night defences using a bicycle inner tube, a swinging toilet chain, and assorted items of household cutlery. I see ghosts when I choose to look for them. I also see the faint glows left behind when souls depart this world in circumstances of grief, terror, or violence. Of the 300 agents in London, I'm perhaps one of 24 to have this gift. And it carries on like that. And you can probably, I don't know if you can tell, but some bits of that I nicked it and used it in the 5th book when Lucy starts the book and she says that my name is Lucy Joan Carwell. I make a living. So I used the good bit of that, which was the way it was done. So that sounded quite good, but quite quickly I realized that then as soon as you start getting into his emotional life, it's going to be, it's going to be less effective.
Yeah. Well, thank you for reading that out. That was amazing.
That's okay. I kind of hadn't heard it for sort of 10 years.
I'm like absolutely freaking out.
No, I love seeing the little bit more of like Lockwood's perspective, because he is that like such a mysterious character and it works so well, but it's still fun to like find those little like details and like the way he thinks and all that. I love his like rapier technique.
Yeah, no, he's very, very flashy, isn't he? He'll throw all that kind of stuff at you and you'll think, oh, he's got so cool, but then actually when you get down to it, he's got all this all this darkness, and that's not so much fun, I guess.
Yeah. Just lots of internal screaming and crying for Lockwood.
I love to think that if he got a chapter, it would just be Lucy, and just that for like a whole page.
like in The Shining, where he's just typing it. Lucy, exactly. Lucy. Oh dear.
Lockwood giving the necklace to Lucy. Please don't turn it down. Please don't turn it down.
Oh. And then she did
and that's kind of symbolic, isn't it? That he's not someone who's very, although the irony is that he's very good at if you ask him to sort of go around to talk his way into some Deprac headquarters or into Winkman's backyard, he'll talk very effectively to get himself into it. But what he's not very good at talking about is his emotional side. That he becomes very dumb and monosyllabic.
Oh, poor baby.
All right. We should probably get our next audience member.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
It's just too fun to talk about, man.
Yeah.
You could talk about it forever. Okay, next up from Instagram is the Shelby Stew.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know how I follow that question. I'm still thinking about it. So
Oh no.
I'm going to move on though to talk about Ezekiel. I'd love to know about his background and his motivations.
Oh wow, yeah. So he's a kind of a mysterious figure. The way I think of him is that he well, in a way he's like a cousin of some of the characters I wrote about in my Bartimaeus series about genies, and in that sort of book the genies have been around. These guys have been around for thousands of years, and they were kind of brought to Earth as slaves, and they basically became quite twisted and quite demonic. And I think of Ezekiel as being similar. That at some point in the distant past, he was a bit like the skull. He had some kind of trauma, refuses to go through to the other side and focuses back on our world. But because of the sheer amount of time that's gone on, and because crucially there's no redeeming figure like Lucy, who is there for the skull. She redeems the skull, so that he doesn't have that, or has never had that. So by the time he turns up and he's hanging out with Marissa, essentially he's kind of lost any sense of humanity, and he's become this kind of demonic presence. You know, he's almost more and less than a ghost. I think he's something that is more of a force, a malign force. So goodness knows what the backstory is. I mean, you'd have to go back quite a long way, I think, to down a few centuries to find out, you know, where it all started. Yeah, so that's a very good answer, but that's how I kind of think of the figure. All humanity stripped away.
Oh,
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering.
Yeah, pleasure. No, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
hi, Shabby.
Bye.
It's a very good point, actually, because you have the skull who's like this you know, wicked spirit, but he has Lucy who kind of turns him, I don't want to say good, but she turns him good. But then Ezekiel only has, you know, Marissa Penelope who does nothing but bad for him. It's an interesting parallel, isn't it?
Well, I think all the figures in the series kind of require someone else to come and help them. You know, Lucy needs Lockwood and George and Holly and Kipps, and you know, all those guys need each other in some form. And the people who don't have that, they tend to be the ones who come to bad ends, or who are kind of, you know, the villains of the piece. I mean, you know, as I wrote it, I began to realize that it is about friendship. It's about love and friendship, and the life enhancing nature of those things.
Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so next up we have the lovely Zoe. Is she here?
Yep.
Hey.
Hi, can you see me?
I can't see you, Zoe, but I can hear you.
Camera's off.
Oh.
Oh, hi.
Here we go.
Hi.
Hello.
I thought you were in a very dark room.
Yeah, I'm a disembodied voice. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you so much for coming to talk with us today. Big fan of your work, and Lockwood & Co has become a great comfort to me, and I'm sure to everyone here today. So I'd like to know if you have any comfort books, shows, or characters that you return to that have influenced you and the worlds you build.
Well, first of all, thank you for that lovely comment, and you know, it's great delight for me that Lockwood has that power. And I suppose in a way, yeah, I guess I was sort of hoping to create something like that, because there are things that have influenced me and given me that sort of pleasure. So what would they be? I suppose, well, in terms of shows, I was always a big Buffy fan. I don't know whether that's it's kind of that's another generation, but I did love Buffy for its, again, it has a very sort of strong sense of a group of characters who all sort of bounce off each other, and it has a very, very good balance of fantasy, and there's humor and danger and horror. So that was very influential for me, and it gave me a lot of joy, a few decades ago. And I think, I suppose I've mentioned it already, but things like Sherlock Holmes are they're the kind of things that I read when I'm ill. You can always tell a comfort show or a comfort book by what you look at when you're in bed with a flu or something. And so I always return to those. And again, they have that sense of very, very strong place and a couple of key characters. And there's a warmth that comes from the charge between the characters. Any others? Those are the first two that spring to mind. What about you? What other shows or books do you go to when you're poorly?
Well, recently it's been all Lockwood and Co, and I've been reading Bartimaeus as well, and I want to move on to Scarlet soon. But yeah, I seem to have an affinity for ghosts and death and fantasy. So so a lot of Neil Gaiman, a lot of V. Schwab, a lot of stuff to do with ghosts mainly. But yes, I absolutely adhere to reading when I'm ill, and while I'm feeling down, I will return to these books and shows every time. So I'm so thankful for the worlds you've built for us.
Oh, that's really kind. But yeah, and no, I think they're very special things. I don't think of any others. PG Woodhouse. I don't know if you guys that hasn't got many ghosts in it, but it's got a lot of humor, and again, it kind of creates this very, very sort of self-contained and satisfying world with some excellent characters. Lots of great comic writing. So that's another one. In fact, you can always tell comfort reads by sort of how many of the books you've got on the shelf, and I've got a whole stack of P.G. Woodhouses from back in the day.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much for answering my question. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Well done, Zoe. Cool. So next up we have last but very not least, we have One Big Thing, otherwise known as Gabriella. Is everything?
Hi, can you guys see me?
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. Hi, Gabriella. Hi, nice.
It's so nice to be here with you guys.
Nice to see you.
It's lovely to see you, Gabby.
Firstly, thank you so much for the ClusterCon panelists and everyone that's made this incredible event. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all. Kudos to you guys who organized this. I don't know how you pulled this off, but amazing work. So Jonathan, I'm from Brazil. I discovered the books after the show came out, and my question to you is, how was it like seeing so many people around the world discovering your books because of the show?
Oh wow. Well, it was a really wonderful and beautiful thing, and I think a bit like we were talking about earlier, there's this really sort of strange and unique sense that it doesn't matter whether you read the books first and then seen the show, or whether you saw the show first and then found the books. It kind of works, but in both directions, because the guys who did the show had done an amazing job of bringing the books to life. So it was this really incredible feeling I had back in January, where you suddenly saw the love that was suddenly igniting all over the world for the show, and then you could see that instantly, people going out and buying the books and talking about that as well. Yeah, tremendously sort of lucky, I feel, and it's still continuing. That's the beauty of it. And as you said, Lock Nation and the guys of ClusterCon are just doing amazing, wonderful things on a daily basis, keeping the family growing and making the family stronger. And it's something that I would never have imagined. Even a few weeks in after the show came out, I hadn't realized how it would continue to go and to expand, and who knows where it's going to go. So I'm very grateful to all of you for the love that you give to the show and the books. Yeah, I'm a very lucky author, and I shall keep writing and try to make more stuff for you.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. I actually went into a scavenger hunt to find all the books as soon as the show came out. So they became a very special part of me. I don't imagine myself without them now. So thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Thanks, Gabriella.
Thanks, Gab.
All right. So that is it for our audience participation. So now it's time. We're running a little bit over, so I'll do this quick. But we have the winners of our signed books that have been so graciously donated by Jonathan. We greatly appreciate it. So I'll do a quick little drum roll, please. So the winners of our raffle are right here. We've got Linlin X, Alexandra B, with the C, and Eugenia M. I think I stole that bit of Lab's part. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Great.
Hey.
I shall scribble some signatures and send some books out. So that's great. Congratulations to the winners.
Congrats, you guys. So the ClusterCon team will be in touch with you via email if you're one of the winners. So I'm sure they'll figure all the technicalities out.
Perfect.
All right. Well, we are just about out of time. Yeah. We'll have to give all of our thanks to you, Lav. Jonathan and I are also grateful to everyone who's spending their afternoon or evening or morning with us. Thank you so much for your wonderful questions.
And we would love to thank the ClusterCon team again for all of their hard work. They've put hours and hours and hours into this. And I think we can all agree that it's just incredibly cool and such a cool opportunity for us to hang out and talk about this world. And we want to thank you, Jonathan, for hanging out with us all day and for spending your Saturday with us, for creating this world that we can hang out in and find friends and family and chaos and memes and all the rest of it.
And
all the Bunchurch memes. And it's very precious and very special to us, and we're very grateful. So thank you.
Thank you so much. No, like I said, Gina and I are very, very delighted to be sort of part of Lock Nation and to watch the family growing. And we're excited to see where you guys are gonna take it next.
We have no idea. It's a madhouse, but it's brilliant. We were hoping as well that you would say hello to Georgina for us and tell her that we absolutely adore her and that she's the best in the world.
Oh yeah, well, you can tell yourself, but she is actually hiding in behind the sofa in Portland Row. If I'm clever, I'll just hold on. You did tell me what I had to do. I've got to just
Jonathan, you just have to click on the arrow button above the
unblur your background too.
Choose virtual background. That's it.
Yeah,
and then none. There we go.
None.
Hi, Georgina.
Hi. Thank you, guys. ClusterCon is so much fun. You guys are doing an awesome job.
Oh, it's lovely to see you, Gina. we just want to say how much we absolutely love you, and you're so much fun on Twitter, hanging out with us and joining in on the memes and the jokes. And I know we must seem absolutely bonkers sometimes, but that's half the fun, I think.
Lots of hearts coming up.
Oh, they're going crazy.
No, honestly, it's so much fun. You guys do such an amazing job. I'm in awe, honestly. It's amazing, and this is great.
Yeah, what a wonderful
I've
day.
learned so much, even just hiding in the corner. I've kind of
heard some new stuff. Oh, good.
Oh, thank you for coming on as well, Gina. It's lovely. It's really lovely to see you because you're a big part of this as well. Like you really are. We all love you so much.
Oh, it's lovely to see you guys. I'd love to ask you guys questions next time.
Gina's quite a key character because she is the person that I always give the books to first. So usually when I'm halfway through it and I'm getting very sort of grumpy because I can't figure out how Lockwood's going to get out of a particular problem, or where's Lucy gonna go to sort something out, then I always give it to Gina, and she talks it through with me and gives me good ideas. So So yes, thank you very much. I need to thank as well. So yeah, great.
Thank you, Gina.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how things expand and continue, and you make me laugh every single day. So
in a good way.
Yeah. In a good way.
I hope so. Everyone makes me laugh so much too. Oh my gosh. I just pop on Twitter, I pop on TikTok,
You're so
Instagram.
inventive. It's amazing.
There's so much, there's new lore accounts popping up every day, and I don't know who any of them are, which is hilarious. And like it could be anyone, and they're so funny. Oh my god, like the creativity is unbelievable. I love them.
Wow, no, it's a beautiful chain reaction, and the ripple effect is going out there, and we will see where it heads. But no, we're both Gina and I are very grateful to you guys for everything that you do.
Definitely.
Oh, we're very grateful to the two of you, because we wouldn't be here without you. Genuinely, like none of us would have ever met. I wouldn't have made the best friends I've ever had. You know, none of this would have happened without you. So. Very, very grateful.
All right.
Thanks so much, guys. It's been really lovely chatting with you.
Yeah. As much as I hate to end this,
I know
we have gone I can't wait a little bit over, and I don't want to take up too much of everyone's time, because I know we're all really excited for 6 o'clock British Central Time. We have our amazing production panel. We'll be talking with Complete Fiction, Joy Wilkinson, about how they brought the wonderful books that Jonathan has written to life on screen. And we'll also be revealing the winners of our show raffle at the end of that panel. So be sure to stick around at the end, either on the webinar or tuning in on the YouTube live stream.
Cool. So we hope we see you all at the 6 o'clock panel, or 6 o'clock BST. And until then, thanks for hanging out.